And maybe we'll use the time to say hello. So I'm Sandra. My last name is Weihnacht, which phonetically sounds a lot like Christmas in German. And then there's Sasha Meyerer. And Doug, you did really well on Sasha's name, and mine is just super hard.
I apologize for that.
Yeah, so just a quick hi from my side. I'm based in Germany, so it's 8 p.m. on my side at the moment, but that's totally fine because I'm happy to tell you more about the cities that I represent. So hi from my side too.
Wonderful. Okay, it looks like some of the polling is coming in. Looks like the number one answer was the second one, which at 44%, it's the top 5 with neighboring countries. Number 2 was at 31%, top 3 with Italy, and the third 25% was Germany is not in high demand yet.
Wonderful. Thank you, everybody, for participating.
Great. So, Sasha, do you have the invite to show your screen?
I think I did it. It's just, if I do this, does everybody see something?
Not yet. We still see the poll. I think, Doug, we have to close the poll and then.
Yeah, we have to close the poll.
Okay. Let's do that.
And obviously leave it to the Germans to challenge Jack's.
There we go. Perfect.
There we go. So yeah, that now you have a face to those two people that are talking to you. So again, my name is Sasha Meyerer, and I'm very happy to welcome you to this webinar where we are talking about Germany off the beaten travel path. And I'm here together with Sandra. Maybe you can introduce yourself again.
Yeah, so I'm Sandra. I am German, born and raised, still have my V's and W's a little bit mixed up. So it's Volkswagen, not Volkswagen, but little things. I'm very, very excited to be here today because coming from Germany and being a big fan of the historic highlights of Germany, it's great places that you may or may not know in depth yet. So Sasha will do a first round of introductions, and then I'll tell you a little bit more about who Inside Europe is and what we've been doing for the last 12 years as well.
Yeah, thank you, Sandra. So to give you a quick overview for those who don't really know that much about Europe or Germany, here's a quick overview of what there is, which countries there are in Europe and which the capital cities are. So Germany is right in the middle of Europe, so it is the perfect destination for either single destination vacation or even country hopping, because I will later with 2 cities especially talk about this country hopping that you can do, and they make a great hub for this country hopping. We have actually 4 major airports, currently 3, but there is actually 1 more coming, which is Berlin, and it is really opening up on October 31st, 2020. Even the government now says everything is fine, all the security issues there were are now over, and Berlin is ready to open. Then, of course, we have Frankfurt and Munich that everybody knows. And in Western Germany, we also have Düsseldorf, which is a little bit of a smaller town, but still big enough to have a huge airport. And especially from not so known places in the States, flights are going over to Düsseldorf. And again, Germany is a huge rail network country, and we are a strong partner of the German rail. And so these 4 airports are all connected to the German rail network. So it's easy if you land somewhere with your plane to hop on a train and go to one of my cities. Talking about my cities, I love to call them Germany's originals because most of them and all of them actually were there before the big cities that you know in Germany, like Berlin or Munich, even existed. And we are a membership association, the Historic Highlights of Germany, and thus these cities have to fulfill several criteria to be a member of ours, which on the one hand side is that they have to have at least 700 years of history, that they are all renowned university cities in Germany. They are all, as I already mentioned before, connected to the ICE high-speed rail network so that you can get easily from one city to the next one. And what's very important, I think, is they are all walkable. You don't really need to get acquainted with the public transport system. Of course, you can, depending on where your hotel is located. They are all pretty sustainable. I will talk about that a little bit later. Authentic and very welcoming. It's so easy to get in contact with the locals because these are just so small communities there in these cities, because they don't have less than 100,000 inhabitants, but also not more than 400,000 inhabitants. So they are neither too big nor too small, very walkable and easy to access. So then let's dive deep into these cities. I quickly do a roundup of a little bit of history of these cities, because we are called historic highlights of Germany, and Germany has so much to offer when it comes to history that I really want to tell you something about that. And that's actually probably one part of the quality time your clients can spend in these 17 heritage cities. And again, I will also give you a little top tip from my side as the CEO of the Historic Highlights of Germany, what you shouldn't be missing while you're in these cities. So let's start from A to Z and Aachen. I would want to start with Aachen, which is actually Charlemagne's treasure chest, you can call it, because there is a cathedral which you see in the middle picture, in the upper middle picture, that is just amazing. This is built around the 800 when Charlemagne became king of a vast area he ruled over, and you can actually call him the first European, because he was the one that actually had such a huge country behind him. Like it spanned from south of France up to the north to Denmark, and he was the one who was really important in the early stages of the Middle Ages. From this part on, when Charlemagne got or became king, he, more than 700 years after that, the kings were even crowned, the German kings were even crowned in Aachen. What I really want you also not to miss is the so-called Printen. It's a kind of gingerbread, which you probably used to eat during Christmas time, but all year round you can get those, and you can even look behind the scenes in some of these bakeries. They also call them bakeries, actually, and just taste these wonderful, amazing gingerbreads. And again, I told you before that I'm also going to tell you something about country hopping. As Aachen is so close to the border to the Netherlands and to Belgium, it is easy to access those two. And my top tip, I already told you, are the Printen. Really, really don't forget to eat that there. Let's go to Augsburg. Let's go to the first country, the first city in Bavaria that I'm going to talk about, because I have 3 cities in Bavaria. Very special is the so-called Fugger and Welser family that were so rich during their time. They were like the Zuckerbergs and the Bill Gates of their time. They even financed the Pope, and because of this, they had so much money, they were able to finance this beautiful Renaissance architecture. But as very people of belief, Mr. Jacob Fugger, who was the richest person by that time, wanted to be in heaven after his death. And what he did is he built the first social housing complex in the world, where still today people can or are able to live when they have financial problems for €1 a month. And so this is this picture on your left-hand side, the lower level. And it's very, very interesting to walk through there and get all those information. Since last year, they became the UNESCO World Heritage Site with the water management system and these fountains you see in the upper in the upper left is also under UNESCO heritage protection, because they were able to bring the water from a nearby stream into the city. And not to forget is Mozart. His father was born there, and without him, Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart wouldn't have been born. And my top tip for this is get a car, drive along the romantic road to Schloss Neuschwanstein that everybody probably knows. Erfurt is we call it the rendezvous in the heart of Germany. It's especially famous for Luther. In 2016, we celebrated the 500th anniversary of the Reformation. And in Erfurt, he studied and he was ordained. So medieval structures are very, very interesting over there in Erfurt. They have the Merchant's Bridge. It's a bridge totally covered with houses on there, and there are many craftsmen and a chocolate maker on there, and which is also my top tip. Go to the chocolate maker, not only for the chocolate, but also for the ice cream they have. Another big thing is the Jewish history in this place, because they found a very vast jewelry collection when they digged in the earth, and they also found a wedding ring, and it is only one of 7 wedding rings in the world that is still left from the Middle Ages, and that's a very interesting structure to see. I quickly have to look at it because I thought I forgot about Bonn, and so I was a little bit quick. So I quickly tell you about Bonn, because that's very important, especially for Western Germans or who were born before the 90s, because Bonn was the former capital. But it wasn't only the former capital, it is also the birthplace of a famous German called Beethoven. We are celebrating its 250th birthday currently, but through to the current situation, and this is also something I really want to tell you, these celebrations for the 250th birthday of Beethoven will not end at the end of this year. They will go on until September 21. And they are currently discussing about when they're going to show what they wanted to show. So I just can tell you that they are going on until September 21. As the former capital, you can actually go to our former parliament, so the room where the parliament sat in, and take a tour there and get more information about how democracy works. And because it was the former capital, it has a huge range of high-class museums that you definitely should visit. And it lies on the River Rhine, and the people on the Rhine are usually known for being very relaxed and very talkative. And that's also why during February, I can highly recommend going there, because we in Germany also celebrate Mardi Gras, so which is called Carnival here in Germany. And so it's a time when you usually think about Germans that they are more not so talkative, let's put it that way. But during that time, during Mardi Gras, yeah, we are drinking beer and having fun. It's kind of like the Oktoberfest, but not really. And yeah, it's just we're getting crazy a little bit. So my top tip, which is actually something to eat, which you might not ever heard, is the so-called Sauerbraten, which is translated into sour meat. And because it is marinated in vinegar, wine, water, herbs, spices, and seasoning for 3 to 10 days. And then you cook it, and then you have it with dumplings, and that's very delicious. So I talked about Erfurt. Let's go to the south, our southernmost city, Freiburg, which is also, and that's why I have this little hashtag there, sun all year round. It's also because we Germans take it really correct. It has the highest number of sun hours, which means it is the place where the sun shines the most. And it's also the capital of the Black Forest, as we used to call it, because you see this picture on the upper left there. You see the trees which are right next to the old town, and this is also the start of the Black Forest. And this is also my top tip for you. So if you stay in this beautiful city, why not dig a little bit deeper into the history of the Black Forest, or these beautiful places that there are in the Black Forest. Another nice saying, when you are in Freiburg, you see these little streams with this little boat over there. These little boats are usually used by children because they are playing with these little streams. But in the Middle Ages, these streams were like lifesavers, because in the medieval times, people usually built with wood, and that's why half-timbered houses are all over. And but then again, it was easily to burn houses, and so they used these bächle all over the city to have water that they could use to how do you say that? That there is no fire anymore. I'm sorry, it's, I'm German, and sometimes words are missing. So it's like a fire extinguisher. Let's put it that way. And so yeah, this is all I think I should tell you quickly about Freiburg. So let's move on to Heidelberg. Most of you probably have heard about Heidelberg. It's probably the best known of the cities that I represent. Heidelberg, you see the castle, which is the most famous castle, probably next to Neuschwanstein in Germany, situated a little bit atop the old town. And within this castle, you also have this huge vat that you see in the right corner, in the lower right corner, where you can even go on top of it. From the other side of the city, you have a beautiful view over the city on a so-called Philosopher's Walk, because many philosophers during the earlier times went there to be inspired by this beautiful view of the city. And I also put the hashtag cruise to the beer. I know Sandra is going to tell you a little bit more about eating and drinking in Germany, but I definitely don't want you to miss that, because you see this little boat on the upper left picture, where upper right picture, where you see the castle. This is a solar-driven boat that brings you to a monastery, and they nowadays brew beer, so you can drink beer in a monastery, and I think that's something pretty cool. And my other top tip is the student kiss chocolate, because there is a little saying that if you want to show your wife or your husband that you love him or her, buy him a student kiss, because in earlier times students weren't allowed to show affection to someone else, so they bought this chocolate. A quick overview of Koblenz. Many of you probably who sell cruises know Koblenz, because it's on the confluent of the Moselle and the Rhine River, and that's also where the German corner is that you see in the upper left picture. That's probably the most known place in Koblenz. Then we have a fortress atop this beautiful German corner, and atop the Rhine Valley that overlooks Koblenz with beautiful views. You can go up there with a cable car. So you just jump off your cruise ship, get on a cable car, and go up there for amazing views. Very close by, it's just a 10-minute drive, is the Stolzenfels Castle. And with the Stolzenfels Castle also comes a top tip of mine. If you are not there with a cruise, but going for a hotel or something like that, you can do a short cruise and see 5 castles. It's a 2-hour cruise, and you see 5 castles and have a drink with that then. Another top tip, which I wrote down, which I don't want you to miss, because there are several places in Germany that also have great gelato, and there is one place, Egilosier, which was in 2018 was rated top 3 on TripAdvisor for whole of Germany. Let's go on to the north. We have beautiful cities in the north too, and actually Lübeck and Rostock, when you look at the map, they are pretty close to each other. They have seaside resorts. Yes, there is a beach in Germany, and we have several beautiful beaches in Germany. So Lübeck, called the Queen of the Hanseatic League. The Hanseatic League was a merchants consortia in the Middle Ages, and these people who were part of the Hanseatic League were very rich people. And so Lübeck and other cities of the Hanseatic League were able to build amazing structures, and but they also needed huge fortifications to protect their cities. So this is why you have this beautiful Holstentor gate there that you can see in the upper left, which protected the city and was also an entrance gate. Be sure to be there when the sun sets, because all this brick Gothic architecture really turns golden in that time. And my top tip for you in this is go to Niederegger. It's a company that produces marzipan, and it's one of the best marzipans you can get in Germany. Going on to Münster, which is also a Hanseatic city, but you only see it at the architecture at the moment. So you do have the Prinzipalmarkt, where you see those bicycles going. This is like the main market for Münster, and it's just beautiful and breathtakingly to watch. Münster, together with Osnabrück, which I tell you a little bit later or just after that, after Münster, they were two cities which where negotiations were happening that ended the 30 Years' War. The 30 Years' War was a war that was fought especially in Germany, and in Münster the Catholics were debating, and in Osnabrück the Protestants were debating, because they were debating which of the religion was the best. And through negotiations, the 30 Years' War came to an end, and these negotiations were the first negotiations that ended a war in history. Nowadays, you do have the Kunstprojekte, which happens every 10 years during the same time as the Documenta in Kassel, which both are modern art exhibitions, and it's really, really interesting, all this modern art that you can see throughout the city there. And my top tip there is a little bit different, because all around Münster you will find moated castles, so a castle with water around it. And this one up in the upper right, you can even sleep there, because this is a 4-star hotel where you can sleep in. So you can sleep in a moated castle. Talking about Osnabrück, I told you already about the 30 Years' War. The negotiations ended that war, and in Osnabrück, the Protestants debated about how they're gonna end the war. It still is, in most parts, a walled city, because it was also a Hanseatic Greek city, so they wanted to protect their wealth. And we do have a lot of interesting Jewish heritage in Osnabrück. So if you have people of Jewish belief as your clients, please send them also to Osnabrück, because we have a very interesting museum there that you see in the lower right. It is the so-called Felix Nussbaum house. Felix Nussbaum was a Jew that was also a painter, and that fled, fled the Nazis. But he painted until the very end, and this structure of this museum, or this architecture of the museum, which was actually built by Daniel Liebeskind. You might know him because of the Jewish Museum in Berlin, or the Contemporary Jewish Museum in San Francisco, or even nowadays, which is more recent, the Memory Fountains at Ground Zero. He built this architecture, and the more you get to the end of his life, the more narrow the building gets, and that really reflects the life of Felix Nussbaum. Going on to Potsdam, I would also like to call it the Beverly Hills of Berlin, because it's just 30 minutes outside of Berlin. And Frederick the Great, the Prussian king, built so many castles and palaces there that we now have more than 20 palace and palace-like buildings there. It's so beautiful. You just walk around the next corner and you see another amazing palace. Between these palaces are lush gardens, so you can stroll there for the whole day and go from one palace to the other and see also beautiful scenery and gardens while you walk there. And they also have a Dutch quarter. And why did they need a Dutch quarter? Because Frederick the Great needed the Dutch people to try the land he wanted to build his palaces on, because it was really muddy land. And the Dutch by that time knew how to try that land, because they did it already at home in Netherlands. This year, we are celebrating the 75th anniversary of the Potsdam Conference that was held in one of these palaces, where Truman, Churchill, and Stalin got together after the Second World War to talk about post-war Germany. And my top tip for Potsdam is there is a lot of water around Potsdam, and you are able to take short cruises, and it's called Nocturnal Palace Impressions. Going down south again to Regensburg in Bavaria, it's a marvel of the Middle Ages. If you sell cruises, it lies on the Danube, and your clients will definitely see those amazing small alley structures and the very, very tall cathedral. Another tall structure that they have there are the patrician towers. You might, if you have ever been to Bologna in Italy, it really is kind of the same, because only the rich people were able to afford this, and then because they wanted to see if their ships are already there with their goods, and so what did they do? They built these high towers, so to climb them, to look for their ships, if their ships are already there, so they could trade again to get more money. My top tip for Regensburg is on the one hand side, which probably Sandra again tells you, but I'm gonna tell you already because it's just too tasty. In the upper right, you see the historic sausage kitchen. It's the oldest sausage kitchen in the world, and you still get sausages there, which are so delicious. And you just sit outside next to the river and just enjoy this delicious food. And the other top tip is the brand new Museum of Bavarian History just opened. And if you are interested in Bavarian history and Germany, don't forget to go there. Up north again, Rostock on the Baltic Sea, again, one with a seaside resort called Warnemünde. And if you don't believe me that we have beaches, look in the lower left, you see the sand, lower right, I'm sorry, you see the sand that is right in front of me, because all of these pictures were taken by me, and I know where I'm standing. It is right at the Baltic Sea. Many of the Baltic Sea cruises either start there or stop there. So if your clients have time, they should visit this beautiful town that was that got big during the Hanseatic League. But also Warnemünde, which is the seaside resort, which was once a fisher village, but now turned into a seaside resort. And you do have all these beautiful, small, little, tiny houses there in the upper right that you can see. It's just very picturesque. And if you are not going there for a cruise, I definitely recommend to take a short cruise from Rostock to Warnemünde and just look at the beautiful scenery. Going to Trier, that is actually where I'm based and where I'm telling you something now from. It's the oldest city in Germany. It's also my hometown. It was founded 16 before Christ by the Romans, by Emperor Augustus actually, and they also brought the wine with them. So if you look for Roman heritage and amazing Riesling, then you have to go to Trier, which is on the Moselle River. And again, for the ones that do that sell cruising, there are I think all major companies, all major cruising companies go there. And again, it's a great place for country hopping. If you are not going there by cruise ship, definitely do a little bit of country hopping, because we have 3 other countries that are bordering Germany close to Trier, which is on the one hand side Luxembourg, then we have Belgium, and then we have France. And if you don't have enough German wine, if you want to drink more, the Champagne region is just 2 hours away from Trier. So Trier is a perfect hub for wine lovers. And that's also my top tip. It's just amazing. You can start in Trier, have lunch in Belgium, and end your day with dinner in the Champagne region and go back to Trier. That's just great. Going to Tübingen, it's a marvel of half-timbered houses. If you love half-timbered houses, you have to go to Tübingen. That's just in abundance there. To relax during your time in Tübingen, maybe rent a punting boat, and they will drive you around this beautiful Neckar the Neckar River front that you see in the upper left, which is just amazing. I've taken so many pictures of that, I can't even count them anymore. As a great tip on the side, either go to the Bebenhausen Monastery, which is an amazing Cistercian monastery that you can visit, or go up to Hohentübingen Castle, which is right next to the Old Town, and go to the University Museum, because this is really, really interesting. And if you are a chocolate lover, just 20 minutes outside of Tübingen, you will find Rittersport, these small chocolate things that many people love to eat. Heading kind of to the end of my part, Wiesbaden, which I also would like to call the Beverly Hills of Frankfurt, because it's just 20 minutes outside or 30 minutes outside of Frankfurt, which is a beautiful spa town. They still have the Kurhaus from the early 1900s. 20th century, so 1900 or 1902, and so on. An amazing old town. You see this beautiful church there. It's also beautiful inside. It's just amazing. And don't be there on a weekend, because if you're there on Saturdays, they have a market going on, and on that market you can meet up with friends, buy a glass of wine or a bottle of wine, depending on how many people you are and how thirsty you are, in the morning, actually, because that's kind of a Frühschoppen, which means you meet people in the morning to drink and eat. And going on this market square, you see in the lower right-hand side, buy a glass of wine or a bottle of wine if you're more people, grab something to eat from this local butcher or local produce seller, and then just have fun and have a great Saturday. So the last city that I want to represent is Würzburg, which is in the Franconian region in northern Bavaria, which lies on the river Main. So again, for those who sell cruises, Würzburg is definitely on your list, or should be on your list. And when it comes to people who don't cruise, it's just an hour away from Frankfurt. So even if you are flying into Frankfurt, you can do the overnight in Würzburg. It is very famous for its UNESCO World Heritage Site, Würzburg Residence, which offers you the largest fresco, which is even, or a stunning fresco, which is even larger than the fresco in the Sistine Chapel. And this year we are celebrating, and which is probably going on also next year, as the current situation we're having at the moment, the celebration of the 300th birthday of laying the foundation for this amazing structure is celebrated. They don't only have the residence, they also have a fortress, which is overlooking the city. I can highly recommend going up there and have a view over this charming city. You can also say that going up there might be a little bit not stressful, I would say a little bit exhausting, but it's definitely worth the climb. The bridge you see on the upper right-hand side, it's the Old Main Bridge. And if someone has been there, they might be reminded of the bridge in Prague, the very well-known bridge, the Charles Bridge. And actually, those bridges were built at the same time. And it's just that the bridge in Prague was finished earlier, so it got more known than the bridge in Würzburg. But other than that, the bridges are kind of the same, and it's just beautiful to walk over that bridge and have an amazing view over the city. And then we also have the so-called Falkenhaus, the house to the falcon, which is a beautiful Rococo structure, and where also the tourist info is located. So just look for this beautiful building. If you need information, hop in there, and then you get this amazing and then you get information. And my top tip for Würzburg is that you should go to either Bürgerspital or Juliusspital, which are both wineries. And because if you go there and drink a glass of wine there, you do good, because these wineries found the hospitals and also the home for the elderly that are directly connected to these wineries. And actually, this was also why these wineries were even built up, because wine is something good for you, actually. So it's a healthy drink, and you can do something good if you drink wine in Würzburg from the Juliusspital or Bürgerspital. And now we go on to Sandra. Thank you.
Well, hello there. So it's time for Kaffeeklatsch. I know we're all thirsty at this point. Sasha has been mentioning wine quite a lot. And that's the region in Germany that I'm actually from, the wine region. My closest historic highlight is both Trier and Würzburg, also two of my favorites. But Kaffeeklatsch means that you meet friends or family, usually in the afternoon, for coffee and cake. So let's meet with Doug real quick and talk about Germany. So Doug, have you been to Germany before?
Hi, Sandra. I've been several times, yes.
And may I ask what the event was, the reason, probably work, but did you experience anything like Kaffeeklatsch or another beloved German tradition?
Well, I did actually. I've been several times for work. I've been to the GTM, German Travel Mart, several times. But I've also gone on my own for pleasure. And being a beer drinker, I would be remiss if I didn't attend Oktoberfest at least twice, which I have done now in the past 10 years. So have a fantastic time there. And while that's not really off the beaten path, one thing I have enjoyed both times during Oktoberfest is taking the train down to Füssen and going up to the top of Tegelberg Mountain on the cable car. Fantastic views, 360-degree views from the top of that mountain. And as you know, it's also very close to Neuschwanstein. So those are some of my favorite things.
Wonderful. Well, Doug, next time we have to, make you, not have to, but we would like to cordially invite you to add 1, 2, 3, or 17 of the historic highlights onto your list. And if you're a fan of Oktoberfest, now a short fun fact about me, the gentleman that you see on the left, who's usually not holding wine nor drinking much of it, is actually my personal Oktoberfest souvenir. So in the year 2002, I did meet my husband, Ted, at the Oktoberfest in Munich. I smuggled in wine at the time and drank it out of a Bierstein. You see Christine Rudledge, she was visiting Würzburg this summer with her husband. She's a blogger and photographer. And yeah, so long story short, Ted and I did get married many, many years later, and beer fests hold a special place in our heart. However, being, a fan of taking the roads less traveled, I do promote, together with Sasha, those beer festivals that you may not know about yet. So for example, Augsburg, Regensburg, and Würzburg have beer festivals twice a year, large-scale festivals similar to the Oktoberfest, but without those big crowds, still with the rides, lots of food, but easier ways of getting in touch with the locals. And the Würzburg Oktoberfest is actually over 800 years old, so a much longer tradition than the other Oktoberfest, which, as we all know, unfortunately this year will not take place. But with all this being said, we, like Doug also mentioned, we're all hoping for some sense of normality to come back. And we all believe, with we, I mean, Sasha as myself, that one of the first destinations that your travelers might be seeking coming forward are not the big cities, but it's the smaller towns. It's places like our historic highlights of Germany. And so we would like to take you on a little bit of a trip. One of my specialties is food and drinks. I'm actually sitting here with a nice glass of Riesling from the Mosel, dry. I say cheers, and I'll take you on a very short trip down my personal favorites. So continuing with family introductions, on the left side you see Thea. She's our daughter, and Thea is actually enjoying a German specialty that hopefully those of you who have visited have already tried. It's called spaghetti ice. Yes, you hear spaghetti, but there's no pasta in this. Thea's favorite is Erdbeer spaghetti ice, so strawberry spaghetti ice cream. And what you see is regular ice cream pressed through a Spätzle maker that then makes it look like spaghetti. It is usually served on top of some whipped cream with either coconut sprinkles or white chocolate on top, some strawberry sauce. It looks even more authentic if you get vanilla, but you know, we know how kids are. One of my other personal favorites is, well, we all need to eat more salad, right? But Germany, we're sausage lovers. And so obviously we also have what is called a Wurstsalat. And you see that on the second picture. Now you're like, wait a minute, but what if I don't eat meat? Will I be okay? You will absolutely be okay. German cuisine, as Sasha mentioned, there's the sausage kitchen, one of the oldest street food predecessors you can think of. But you know, it's also a farm to table culture. So obviously there are vegetarian dishes and even vegan dishes. It's a big, big movement, not just, you know, here in the US, but worldwide. And in addition to just market food, the bakeries, just so many options, but every restaurant nowadays will clearly identify for you vegetarian option, vegan options, gluten-free, low sodium. And then you may also not know that Germany has a high number of Michelin star restaurants, and maybe we can, you know, see what your answers are about the number of Michelin star restaurants, including some that are exclusively vegetarian, as we get into our Q&A session. All right, where to next? What else can I tell you about Germany? Red, white, or rosé. Now we're speaking my language. So let's go briefly into the cities that you've already visited with Sasha. Trier, Koblenz, Wiesbaden, Freiburg, Tübingen, and Würzburg are some of the main wine cities. And you see different bottle shapes, you see different drinks. On the right side, you have a Kalte Sophie, which is kind of like a frosé. So it's a frozen wine drink. That's something that has just recently come up. The region that I'm from, we like to drink wine by the pint glass. Sometimes, you know, half mixed with either sparkling water or Sprite, which is then called a Schorle. Or the beautiful lady you see in the front, that is Megan from Bobo and Chi-Chi, a travel journalist who visited Würzburg this summer, and she's doing what the locals do, standing on the bridge, enjoying the views, and having a nice glass of wine. You will also see to her left a very modern structure that is a winery in Würzburg on the hills, perched high above Würzburg, that every summer holds a wonderful 2-week festival with live bands, lots of gourmet food. And you see the benches a little bit on the right side of the picture. So you're actually sitting amidst the wine and have a great, great time. It's magical. I've now had the pleasure of going twice, and I can highly recommend it. As we are moving on to our next destination or surprise, if Sasha is still with me.
Yeah, I'm still here. It's I'm sorry, the Christmas markets. Yeah.
Yeah, let's you know, so my name is Sandra Weihnacht, so which better thing to talk about than Weihnachtsmarkt? And again, your historic highlights are offering you 17 wonderful places to be merry. And when I say 17 places, it's 17 cities, with each of them offering you and your travelers multiple opportunities to experience the very beloved tradition of Christmas markets, both in large-scale settings as well as in smaller, more intimate events that may take place on just one weekend or just 1 week during the period. Do keep in mind that several of the Christmas markets start around even before Thanksgiving, depending on the date that it falls in. So that's a great time to go overseas. And some of them do continue into the new year. They are then rebranded into Neujahrsmärkte. And they're absolutely great destinations, pretty much for everybody in the family. But ideally, I would say for families and girlfriend getaways or multi-generational opportunities as well.
Yeah, and again, me, Sasha, a quick talk about cruises. I already told you most of where these cruises are going. They're going on the Rhine, the Moselle, the Main, the Danube, and even the Elbe River. If you don't know actually where the Elbe River is, it's a river that runs also in Eastern Germany. So there is a cruise going from Berlin to Prague that also goes to Potsdam. I told you about Rostock, which is on the Baltic, where some of the Baltic cruises leave or go to. And then you have other cities on the Rhine, Moselle, Main, and Danube that are Bonn, Koblenz, Trier, Wiesbaden, Heidelberg, Freiburg, Würzburg, and Regensburg. And as I said, all major cruise companies go there. Viking, Arma Waterways, Uniworld, etc., etc. They go there. We are also in close collaboration with some partners that I already told you about, like DB, which is operating in Germany, and they cooperate with Rail Europe. So if you buy a German rail pass from Rail Europe, you can easily access Germany via rail. We are also working with KD. If I told you about this short cruises in Koblenz, this 2-hour cruises, you can take the KD line and that will take you on there. We definitely work with Germany, the travel destination, which is the national tourist board of Germany. Sandra and I are both members of the USTOA, and Historic Highlights is also a member of the ETOA, the European part, or the European Operators Association. And then we have been to several events. Maybe we've already met there, some of you, which will be GTM, Global Travel Marketplace, and GTM West, both operated by Travel Age West. Then we have Future Leaders in Travel, which is pretty new, which is for more the younger generations, the millennials, where I've been to last year. And then Sandra is also part of the Family Travel Association, or better to say, she's a member of the Family Travel Association. We are also working with the media. So if you want to show your clients or want to hear about or want to hear from other persons what you can do and see and eat and drink in our cities. We've been in the Los Angeles Times, Smarter Travel. If someone's watching us from Canada, we've been in the Globe and Mail, Jack's Fact, Smithsonian, Johnny Jet, etc., etc. If you need some of these links, we are happy to send you those links that you can forward them to your clients if they want to hear more. We have also several videos or are currently in production of more videos. And if you want to show your clients videos, we are happy to share them with you.
Yeah, with that being said, if you may make use of the Q&A, the chat feature, to ask us questions, but feel free to also, if you have a specific request, you're interested in a specific city. Doug was so kind to let us know that as part of the summary, we will be getting all your questions. And if you have something very specific that you would like us to go into, we're more than happy to get back to you within the next few weeks, depending on how many questions we have. I know we had about 200 people registered for today's webinar, which is amazing. Both Sasha and I were very much looking forward to it. Okay, a few words about Inside Europe. I keep it very, very short. We are a very highly specialized tour operator. We are mostly known as for our own brand, Incantado Concert Tours, where we have successfully taken both medium and very large choirs overseas to sing in beautiful venues such as the Trier Cathedral, as well as the Vatican, performing for the Holy Father. However, you know, as you can tell at this point, we also have a deep, deep passion for food, drink, and culinary experiences. And I think what makes us quite unique is that we have, from the beginning, Inside Europe started in 2007, been both a B2B as well as a B2C company. When we have clients that come directly to us, the first question we ask is, who is your travel advisor? Can we work together with your travel advisor on what you're looking to do? Unfortunately, over the course of the last few years, we all know that a lot of the travelers decided, oh, I can do this on my own. I will just book through an OTA. As you know, the silver lining for the pandemic effects that we're all going through and suffering from at present, I hope that there's going to be a shift, and the value of working with you as a travel advisor, as well as with a smaller scale tour operator that is extremely hands-on. We have 0 degree of separation. We know all of our hotels, our partners, and happily research new opportunities, be it for, especially for a group of 50 and up, but also when it comes to higher end FITs, don't hesitate to reach out to us and start a dialogue. At the same time, please do know, since we are a smaller tour operator, we also sell out quite well in advance. But something special to partner on that is surely high in demand would be the beer festival tours, wine events. We are happy to work with you on restaurants that are looking to taking their patrons over, and we'll be sending you some information later on that you also find on our website.
So yeah, a quick summary again for the end of this webinar. So we are 17 partners in Germany, welcoming smaller cities, authentic experience, less crowded, collection of 17 historical cities around Germany, a diverse and multicultural university cities, accessible and pedestrian-friendly neighborhoods, thriving cultural scene and festivals, numerous artists and art galleries, amazing culinary variety, award-winning restaurants, wineries and breweries, and a wide choice of accommodation and attraction for every taste and audience. And quick, Sandra,
Yeah.
do you want to do that?
Sure. So being a German that has been very happily living in the United States for many years, and what I forgot to mention is with Inside Europe, while I am very passionate about my home country of Germany, our #1 destination in the recent years has always been Italy, sometimes in competition with Spain or France. Something that the longer I've been gone, the more I treasure is that, distancing, and I don't like to call it social distancing so much, but rather physical distancing, is a concept that in Germany, and as a German, is something that you've experienced from early on. Yes, even in crowds, Germans tend to make sure that there is a distance between them and the next person in front of you, the person behind you. You've probably seen Germans queuing at attractions as you've been traveling. So Germany is one of those countries that has reacted very early on, has put many measures in place. The pictures that you're seeing are actually from just this week. They're from Würzburg. They show you that life has resumed, but the new life as we're experiencing right now includes more spacing. It includes rules that are communicated. Now, the rules that you're seeing communicated are currently communicated in German only because, again, we're still under travel restrictions. But that's also why you have a wonderful partner in Sascha with its 17 cities. I'm sure you have other wonderful partners, be it through your consortias, your destination management companies. So just ask them about all those measures in place, because the more you know, the better you can inform your clients. And please don't hesitate to reach out for additional information. I think it's a common goal that we all have, that once international travel is safe and ready to go, that people know about all the rules in place, both for their protection as well as for the protection of the local communities welcoming them.
Yeah, and that's us again as contacts. I will skip this page because you will see that later again. And that's it. Thank you so much. Doug, I'm handing over to you.
No, we say Dankeschön und auf Wiedersehen in Germany.
Dankeschön und auf Wiedersehen, correct.
And we're handing it over to Doug because we hope there are some questions that we can help answer.
It does look like we have some questions rolling in. Thank you for that great presentation. Did you want to do one of the polls? Should we do one of the polls now before the questions? Great.
Yes, thank you.
Do another poll here.
Yeah, so what comes to mind first when you or your travelers think of Germany? That one should have been part of our coffee clutch, but I totally forgot. Is it food or drink? Is it the Oktoberfest? Is it history and architecture? Or is it the river cruises? It would help us to understand also what we can do better for our follow-up, which information is most on your mind. Yeah, so if you take a minute to answer that, that would be great.
Fantastic. And actually, while they are doing that, a couple things to mention. First of all, we've had a couple questions. This webinar is being recorded, so it will be available on our website, jaxfax.com, early next week under Travel Advisor Training. We'll also send you a link to that recording, so you'll have that to access. And also a reminder there on your screen, you'll see that both Sasha and Sandra provided a handout, a brochure that you can download directly from the screen there. So please feel free to do that as well.
Yeah, and thank you, Doug, for having us. It was definitely the one thing to look forward to when it comes to travel in the last few weeks. And it's been such a pleasure to talk about home. I'm looking forward to being able to travel again soon. So thank you for having us.
Of course, thank you. It looks like most of the voting's in, about 72%. And it looks like the number one answer so far is history at 47%.
Yeah, great, thank you.
Followed by river cruises at 35% and food and drink at 18%.
All right, that does break my heart slightly, but I do get it that, you know, Germany may not be known so much for its cuisine because everybody thinks it's mostly sausages and sauerkraut. So hopefully that's something we can change. We hosted Kim Orlando from Traveling Mom in the Historic Highlights a few years ago, and she was very hesitant to come. She was traveling with her family. She's like, you know, my husband, he really doesn't like any other food than Italian food. And we're like, Kim, you don't have to worry. We will serve you and your husband every single day, probably the best pizza he's ever had. And we'll share the link of her story as well. So her husband is now a huge fan of Germany, as is her vegan daughter. So please, when you have foodie clients, put Germany into the mix and reach out to Sasha or myself so we can point you in the right direction. It's not just all Wurst and Kraut.
Fantastic. Okay, let's jump into the questions. Let's start with one of my favorites, and that question is, we were talking about Oktoberfest and the fact that it unfortunately had been canceled. Somebody's asking, will there be any beer festivals happening in 2020 that you're aware of?
I would say most likely. We will definitely be looking into that and get back to you. The regions, it's the smaller towns that will have a competitive advantage over the big cities when it comes to assessing the safety and the case numbers in relation to what is planned. But with thousands of festivals, there's so many happening that even the Germans don't know how many there really exactly are, which I think is quite funny, because we're really big on statistics. So I'm very confident that there will be some beer festivals happening this year, and we will be glad to update you in accordance.
Terrific. Okay, the next question is, she's saying that her challenge is finding available hotels for smaller towns. Is that something you would be able to help with?
Absolutely, yeah. And I think the challenge is very real when it comes to smaller towns all across Europe, that the smaller hotels usually have a very loyal local clientele. And a lot of them might not have the fancy website or a full-time staff member that speaks English. And it's something that we've encountered. I mean, I've personally encountered it when I send out an email in English to a German partner or an Italian partner, and I don't get any answers back. And then if I resend that same request in the native language, it does make a difference. So part of what both Sasha and I are here to do for you too is to connect you. Yes, I'm a tour operator, and yes, I would love to, you know, partner for selected groups or selected special events with some of your travel advisors. But at the same time, this is my passion. This is what I love to do. So we're more than happy, both of us, to simply connect you with the partners. If you prefer to do direct booking, then we'll just make an introduction. And the smaller hotels do like the groups. They have different rules than you might be used to, but at the same time, we all know that rules have changed over the course of the last few months, and there are more to change in the future. So it takes a little bit more work, but your clients will think it's very, very rewarding when you find them a special place in a smaller town.
And just a quick information from my side, we do have a list of new hotel openings for the next 2 to 3 years. And the good thing is that the last 2 to 3 years, our cities do get more and more international hotel chains. So if your clients do want to use points or want to collect points, even if they're with IHG or Marriott or whatever there is, there are more and more hotels coming to our cities when it comes to international renowned consortia.
Great, thank you. Somebody's asking if either one of your companies have a Virtuoso affiliation.
We are working here in Germany with DMCs that have a Virtuoso affiliation, and we are currently working with them to put these cities on the map for Virtuoso clients.
Yeah, and we do not have a Virtuoso affiliation simply based on the fact that while it is an amazing organization, it is also a high ticket item to be a partner of. So while we have partnered with Virtuoso agents in the past, Inside Europe is not an affiliate with Virtuoso yet.
Fair enough. Great. Another question, how many days would you recommend to have a meaningful smaller cities experience?
For most of my cities, it's usually 1 to 2 days.
Okay.
Yeah,
I would do 1 to 2 overnights.
Yeah, 1 to 2 overnights, 3 days, 2 nights. There's some cities where it's very easy to spend even 4 or 5 nights because you can venture out to others. Potsdam, for example, if you want to include Berlin, you have Heidelberg that gives you so much opportunity to venture out as well. Same with Freiburg. I think it depends on usually the age of your travelers and the amount of vacation time that they have. You won't get bored. I've spent 5 nights in Würzburg, for example, and many times in a row now, and I still can't wait to go back and do more. So we don't advocate for the 1 night stays because that's really hard to get a real impression of the city. So at least 2 nights, but some of the cities are more than ideal for a longer stay as well.
Yeah, and then again, I told you about Aachen and Trier, which would be a great hub for this country hopping. It's the same what Sandra said with the other ones. There is so much to see and do around these cities, even bigger cities. So you can stay and sleep there and enjoy the beautiful coziness of these places. And if you still do want to see a big city, you're free to go. So it's just you can do it as a hub. Use these cities also as a hub if you want to.
Great. Sasha, one quick thing. Somebody's asked here for contact information. I wonder if you can go back 1 slide and leave that in the background while we finish up the last few questions.
Sure,
that way
no worries.
We'll have
there
your
you go.
information. Excellent, thank you. Okay, does anybody have an estimate of when travel between Germany, Czech Republic, and Poland will be allowed? That could be a tough one.
Yeah, it's a tough one. That all depends on the developments, not just of Germany itself, but also the neighboring countries. And you may recall that the Czech Republic drew a very harsh line for travel between its destination and others. So it's just a waiting game. And we all know that's not what anybody wants to hear, but that's our current reality.
Sure, that is reality. Great. Okay, somebody's asking, is it fun? And I'm assuming by fun, they probably mean easy to do a self-drive.
Absolutely. If you are able to, let's start with the two most important things. Be prepared to be able to drive a stick shift, because not all car rental places, even though they may say it and confirm it, but they may run out of a stick shift by the time your clients are picking them up, especially if there's a delay. So it's just keep that in mind. And I think a little bit of a general map reading skills or street sign reading skills always helps. But compared to Italy, Germany is much easier to navigate. And again, there comes this whole rule following thing. It's a little bit less chaotic to drive there than in some of our neighboring countries to the south.
Okay, great. Let me see. Well, we just have a comment that the smaller towns of Germany will be of interest as they represent real Europe culture, while cities like Berlin have become more contemporary. So I think that fits right in with your presentation.
That's totally true. That's totally true.
Yeah, and please don't forget, this is not about saying people shouldn't go to Berlin, they shouldn't go to Frankfurt, should go. No, the opposite is the case. It's the combination that makes it really, really special. It's combining a big city experiences with one or two small towns, or for those who have done the big cities already. So we're not in competition. We're all here to work together and make sure that people feel safe and welcome when they travel.
Well said. One final thing, somebody's asking, when is, and I think it might be now, white asparagus season?
It is right now, and I'm so sad that I don't get any. Yeah, it's one of my absolute favorites.
Mine too. Yeah. Okay, great. Well, it looks like that is all the questions. Sandra and Sasha, thank you very much for the presentation. I think it was very informative and will be very helpful. And again, it's being recorded, so everybody can go back and review anything they may have missed or want to refresh themselves on. Travel advisors, thank you very much for taking the time to join us today and for actively participating in the training session.
We appreciate it too. Doug, would you roll out the last poll for those who are still with us,
Sure.
just so that we get a little bit of feedback if we did it right?
Absolutely.
Or what we can do better next time?
I would be happy to do that. Give me 1 second.
Thank you very much.
Okay, great. And there it is.
Yes. You probably know the word of Vorfreude.
Oh, sorry, Sandra, go ahead.
Yeah, you probably know the German word of Vorfreude, which is the joy of anticipation. It's one of my favorite words. And so we're asking you, did we help you a little bit to get into the spirit of going to see Germany? And our answers are, ja, Germany ist wunderbar. B, ein bisschen, a little, or encore, wish you had told me even more. So thank you everybody very, very much. And Sasha will have the final word here.
Yes, and thank you so much also from my side over from Germany. And thank you for listening. Thank you for listening to my words about historic highlights of Germany. I know it was a little bit much history, but that's what we're all about. And but on the other hand side, we are places people actually live in and people actually like to live in. And we have great food, great places. And yeah, you can just enjoy a cappuccino on the market square and just let the world be the world.
Thank you very much. And you will both be happy to hear that 86% of the respondents said that, ja, Germany is wunderbar.
Oh, thank you so much.
Thank you. Great.
So that's fantastic. And with that, we will end today's webinar. Again, thank you all very much. I hope everybody stays safe and healthy. Thank you and goodbye for now.
Goodbye.
Goodbye, everyone.